we did one of these Zooms last time for our last retreat, and I mentioned something about, people coming just to do a vibe check and see what we're all like. And somebody was like, totally here for the vibe check. And I get it. Um, so yeah, I'm Claire Bidwell Smith. I've got Barry Grant here with me, Kelsey Sawyer, and Angela Schellenberg. They are all going to be with me on the retreat. Amazing colleagues and grief experts. And yeah, we're excited to tell you guys all about the retreat. We're going to talk a little bit about the last retreat, about what we're hoping for this retreat, kind of the rundown and breakdown of how it goes, and then happy to answer any questions anybody has. So again, welcome. And I'll just start by saying, if you don't know that much about me, I'm Claire Bidwell Smith. I'm a therapist specializing in grief and loss. I have been in private practice for almost 2 decades. I can't believe how old I am now. But I've been doing this for a long time. I lost both of my parents to cancer when I was younger, and have spent my whole adult life navigating a path of grief for myself and then doing this work with others. I have a master's in clinical psychology and worked in hospice for a period of time and then went into private practice. And I see clients one-on-one in person and on Zoom all the time, but I also really love group work. I think coming together in grief is really profoundly healing. Not all groups end up feeling like a fit, or you may not feel ready for groups in some points of your grief process. You can also do grief group work in tandem with one-on-one. So many of you may already be seeing somebody one-on-one for grief therapy or coaching, and then doing something like this retreat is an amazing addition. But I think one of the reasons it's so healing is because grief is just so lonely. You feel so isolated. You feel like you're the only person going through this kind of loss and grief, and you really doubt and question a lot of the feelings you have, or how long you're grieving, or the different areas of grief that you might get stuck in or scared of. And you're also getting all these messages from the outside, from maybe your family or community or culture, about how you should be grieving. And it can get just really confusing. And so when you come together with a group of people who are also walking their own paths of loss, it's just, there's something so special about it, to realize like how alone you are not, and how universal this experience is, and how good it feels to be with other people who really get what you're going through. So I've been doing retreats for years and years, and I just think every time I feel very profoundly moved and changed by them. I just see huge changes in people over the matter of like the course of like a few days. It's pretty profound. This last retreat we just did in September at the exact same location that the February one will be, was just one of the like most meaningful experiences I have had in my almost 20 years of doing this grief work. The group of people who came were amazing. My colleagues who assisted me and were alongside working with everybody were just incredible. And it was just really beautiful and kind of life-changing, even for all of us, I know. And so we hope the same for this one. I did 15 to 20 minutes meeting every single person who came to the retreat. I really wanted to get to know everybody just a tiny bit before, understand your stories, really designed the whole weekend with that in mind. And I will do the same. It may not be this, the kind of flow of the weekend may be different from the September one, based on what everybody's like and what the needs are. And then that's really important to me. I want this to be a good experience for everybody. And I know everyone's traveling and you're taking time away from your life, and hoping that this is going to help. And we really want that for you as well. So I'm going to introduce my friends here. I'll start with Barry and have her introduce herself and talk a little bit about her work and her experience at the last retreat we did.
Hi, everybody. I'm Barry Liner Grant. I founded the Memories Circle in 2018, mostly for group work and some one-on-one work with clients. And this last retreat was transformative, as Claire said. I worked with groups mostly in and around writing through grief and learning some tools for grief tending that so many people have reported that they're continuing to use at home. Some have even started blogs and Substacks and really use that as part of their healing. I lost my mother, Ellen, in 1993, and I come to this work by way of learning a lot about my own process and feeling like I was called to do the work. I kept meeting other motherless daughters and felt like, as Claire said, we were so much more alike than we were different. I thought I was alone until I realized, consciously that you're not, but subconsciously you can really feel like you are on this lonely boat island. And then you find somebody that gets it. I say the illuminators, and you are just transformed in their presence. So seeing that tenfold at the retreat was just the most extraordinary experience. And again, the changes we saw over the course of such a short time together was so beautiful. And they still hang. They still have a Facebook group and lots of connection and continued support from one another, and groups with us as well. So I look forward to hearing any of your questions and hope to meet you soon.
Thank you, Barry. Kelsey Sawyer.
Hi, everybody. My name's Kelsey, and I am a board-certified dance movement therapist and a yoga teacher, and I specialize in grief. So I have a private practice called Riverbend Grief and Movement Therapy, where I serve children, teens, and adults, all who are grieving. And I use movement and breath and yoga and dance to be able to process grief on a more embodied kind of level. I feel like, we hold so much of our grief in our bodies, and it's so important to be able to use movement in our bodies in a way that allows us to process all of these heavy feelings or experiences of trauma. And that, in our society today and in this culture, that's not what people do, or it's not really accepted to really explore that. And so what I offer is pretty unique, and I love that. I love that
because it's not about the hours that they know about.
Come into my workshops or my classes, and they've never moved their body in relation to their grief before. And I got to go on Claire's retreat in September and do one of my flowing with grief practices with all of the participants, and it was magical. There were a lot of people who had never done anything like that before and had just really profound experiences and just new realizations and perspectives on their grief because of what they were able to move through their body. And so at this retreat, I'm also going to be able to lead a movement practice on the Saturday morning, I think. And it'll just be a way for us to connect with our bodies, connect with our feelings of grief, connect with each other in a more energetic and soul kind of way.
It's not about the hours
I'm really
that they know about.
excited to be able to
You do in the dark.
that.
And it's you and your thoughts.
Okay. I think we have to.
Okay.
Sorry. I think that person may have been doing that on purpose, so I removed them.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's really all I have to say. I'm excited to get to offer it again. And if any of you have questions about movement and stuff, come to this retreat, because we talk all things body and grief. And I know Angela, she'll introduce herself too, talks more about trauma and how that is held in our bodies as well. So if you're interested in any of that, we would love to have you with us.
Thank you, Kelsey.
Mhm.
Kelsey's workshop last retreat was so great. I'm someone who really I hate dancing. I'm afraid to dance. I get really squirrely in my body, and there were a couple other people at the retreat too who were like, I'm just gonna sit in the back of the room. I'm not gonna do this. All of us loved it. We all ended up totally getting into it. There was a guy there who had never done yoga and went up to Kelsey right away and was like, I'm not gonna do this, but then he loved it and it was so great. And it is really important to think about how we hold grief in our bodies and our relationship to our bodies when we go through loss. I lost both of my parents to long illnesses, and it gave me a lot of fear of my body, and I just carried a lot of grief in my body as well. And so it's a really important component of all of this. And in addition to the workshop that Kelsey will lead, she'll also be there to really kind of help us talk about the physicality of grief and how to be in our bodies and work with it. So thank you, Kelsey. And Angela is going to also be joining us. She was not on our last retreat, but I've worked many, many different ways with Angela, and she's an outstanding trauma therapist that I'm really excited to have on board with us.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. I'm looking at all these faces and thinking about all the different grief retreats that I've done throughout my life and how much they helped. And so I'm so glad you're here. I'm a licensed mental health therapist. I'm an EMDR trauma therapist. I work a lot with grief and loss. I work with gun violence survivors, and really about the ways that grief and loss can be traumatic. So many people don't realize that there's trauma involved in grief and loss. I mean, I think we're starting to now, but I think some people don't always recognize the amount of trauma that grief and loss can have. So what I do is work with clients to really help them develop tools. We use a lot of EMDR techniques, but primarily in this setting, what I'd like to do is really help you guys with some tools that you'll take away, that when you start to feel things, you'll have a little toolbox that you can take with you. Many of you already have that. My story is when I was 16, I lost my father to gun violence, and then 6 years later, my mother died. And I was 22 when I had lost both of my parents, and my mother was institutionalized and had a lot of mental illness. So I think I was always destined to be a therapist, trying to make sure I didn't lose my mind in some way, capacity or some way. And so what I think about a lot is just all the ways, I've been an educator, an elementary educator, and then also a nonprofit ED working in orphanages. When my husband and I lived overseas, we were in China and Thailand and Saudi Arabia. So I did some nonprofit work there where I was constantly working with kids that were traumatized and trying to also help them settle in their body, figure out when they get triggered. And so we'll be using some of those tools as well here. And I've also done some motherless daughter retreats with Hope Elderman, and I've been to Claire's retreat, I think many years ago. I was just so changed by it and so transformed. The power of not grieving alone and just being there with people who get you. It may not be the same exact loss that you had, but just to have someone say me too, and to be in the room with all these people who've lost and are experiencing what you experienced, there really isn't words for that. It's just so healing in and of itself. So I, encourage you all to come. You will be in for such a treat. It's really great.
Thank you, Angela. Yeah, so the arc of the week, or the arc of our time together, looks like the very first night we'll all gather together, and we meet in small groups and large groups over the course of our time. So the first night we're all together and we're really kind of getting to know each other a little bit, sharing a small amount of our story, really feeling out like the kind of the vibe of the whole group. Every group is different. You'll get to know us a little bit more that first night, and it's usually a long travel day for people. So after that, we go to sleep, get some rest. In the morning, we gather together again as the whole group. There were 29 participants last retreat. And so we would gather together all in one room, and we did some, conversations about grief, understanding a lot of what we're all carrying, why, how certain things present the way they do. We had every type of loss. We had all kinds of ages. We had, 20 years old up to 60s. We had people who had lost children, lost teens, lost adult children. We had people who had lost mothers, fathers, lost spouses, lost fiancés, partners. Many people had multiple losses. So there were people there who had, gone through the loss of a child and a father. And that's a lot to carry, we're all coming into that room, and there's a lot of stories, a lot of differences, but a lot of similarities too. We had some people who had lost people to suicide, some people to violence, some people to long illnesses. It was a big range, but there was a lot of commonality, and we are all really skilled at kind of pulling these things together, making sure everyone is feeling seen and understood and able to be, in a place where they feel connected. So in addition to the large groups, we then break out into smaller groups. I met individually with every type of loss. So I had a small group with the women who had come who lost children. I had a small group with everyone who had lost a father, then everyone who had lost a mother, and then everyone who had lost a spouse or a partner. So we did really focused work around those and sat together within those particular losses. And during that time, the rest of the group were doing smaller workshops with Barry and Kelsey and our other trauma therapist. So that's kind of the arc of it. We come together for meals. We gather in the evening for like a more gentle gathering. It's a beautiful setting. It's in Mill Valley. There's redwoods. You walk right out the door into the nature. It's so gorgeous, but it's also pretty easy to get to. It's just an hour from Oakland or San Francisco Airport. I lived in Mill Valley for a couple of years, so I know it pretty well. You can rent a car. People carpool a lot. There'll be a Facebook page you can join and connect with others to do something like that, or you can just Uber there and back. So that's pretty easy. The house is awesome. We're all together in there. There are a few people who will do a day rate. They may live nearby and come just for the day and then go home and sleep at night and then come back in the morning. But for the most part, the house is full, and it's just like a really beautiful experience of being together and kind of feeling really held by it. One last thing I'll say before we open up for questions is also, in addition to all the different types of loss, there were people that had really different lengths of time since their loss. Some people were 10, 15 years out from a loss. Some people, I think the minimum we really want someone to be is 6 months. So there were some people who, their loss had been much more recent. And then there were others who had a recent loss and an older loss, so they were working through different ones at different times during the course of our time together. But I'm a firm believer that it does really, however long you have been grieving, there's always time to get support. It doesn't matter if you've been holding a loss for a long time. Some people really think they should be past it, or they shouldn't be seeking support if they've, been a little while out from their loss, but there is always more grief work to be done. And it's always helpful and healing to support yourself through it. So anything any of you want to add before we open it up to a Q&A?
I just wanted to say that the between the between is the unplanned deliciousness that happens in the between. Who you eat with, who you go on a walk with, the things that you talk about, the people who you might room with. I mean, strangers left as friends, and it was the most gorgeous part to me. It was the between. The work is the work, and I think the part that was so unexpected and so beautiful to watch was just that mix, and every day different, and just incredible.
Yeah, I'll just add to that quickly in the in-between moments. So yeah, this is hard work, right? It's heavy to hold and to do, but there's also time for you to really take care of yourself and to rest, and to do what you need to do. Like in the mornings, I'd wake up extra early, make my cup of tea, maybe meditate for a little, do a little yoga or walk around outside. And then same with midday stuff. You have time to really either have connection with other people or take time for yourself. So there's a really good balance of not being too overstimulated, if that's what you lean towards when you're in big groups of people at all times. It's really nourishing both ways, and we make time for that for you.
There was an incredible amount of laughter too. We all laughed all weekend. You just, you meet people, and you also need to release that tension because we're talking about such heavy stuff and sharing such heavy stuff, but then you start feeling so comfortable and familiar with everybody. There was so much laughing. It was so fun. And everyone came in that first night, just arms across their chest. They were like, I don't want to be here. I'm scared. I almost didn't come, like I might leave. and I promised everybody, I was like, we are going to hold you guys. Like, we can do this. Yeah. We really have this for you. My intention with the arc, the way that it's really designed is to bring you in, really help you open up over the course of the first 36 hours, and then really be able to sit in some of your really hard stuff in this safe place, but then start to give you these amazing tools and help you really understand how to use them. And then we start to put you back together a little bit too, so we're not sending you home like a mess. We don't want you to come and open up to your grief in this way that you haven't before and feel like you're going to go home a mess. You really are going to go home feeling changed and feeling inspired and feeling like you have tools and you have an idea of how you can continue to walk with this loss.
Lindsay's reminding us that we have these incredible local therapists, massage therapists on hand. You can sign up for a treatment while you're there. They were unbelievable. People said it was the best massage they'd ever had in their whole life.
Yeah, it was really great.
I also would like to add, I want to remind you that no matter how old you were when you had a loss, whether it was recent or maybe it was when you were a kid. So often trauma is fragmented, and grief and loss can be fragmented. So, if you lost someone early in your life, sometimes I have clients that are all the way up till 85, honestly. Like there's no age limit or time limit on your grief. Like so often there's different waves of grief that come up. So if you were young, developmentally, you can get frozen in that state where the grief happened. And sometimes we can stay there for a long time. And then all of a sudden we're like, wait a minute, the way that I operated before isn't working. And so it's a perfect time to deal with it in the here and now. And as we get older, we kind of go, okay, now I can understand and look back, and this feels so much heavier because I can see it now so much clearer. So it doesn't matter, what age you are or how, if it's recent or not. This group right here is such a container. Like Claire said, we are going to hold you, and we're trained to make sure that you are not dysregulating, that we are able to help you find your way through this. We're really excited to do that.
Thank you, Angela. So yeah, any questions? We are happy to answer anything. We also, so many of the people from the last retreat told us that they are happy to talk to anybody who has questions if you want to talk to a participant who's already been on this. So we're happy to set you up with that. But yeah, you can go ahead and use the raise hand function, or just come off mute and ask a question, or put it in the chat. And if nobody has questions, you might be here for a vibe check. Portia?
I think we already did a vibe check. If we all still here. I mean, we're not trying to be funny.
Oh, it's true. I get it.
I wanted to know, Claire, when the dates were in February.
Lindsay's the administrator on all of this. She can tell us.
Hey,
I know it's over Valentine's Day.
Yes. So it's a Tuesday through Friday, February 13th through 16th. And we wanted to, we love this location. We're looking around for, different locations in the future. And we just wanted to get this on the books as soon as we could. And there weren't any weekends available, but I think it's going to be a really, really cool to be together over Valentine's Day.
Yeah, that can be a hard time when you're grieving.
Yeah. So we're really looking forward to this particular week being together.
Thank you. That works for me, because I was wondering, is it during the week? Is it during the weekend? Mm-hmm. I'm speaking at a retreat in Costa Rica 2 months after, and it's during the week and the weekend. So that's why I was curious what the dates were.
Yeah. I'll put
Oh, go ahead, Lindsay.
Oh, I was just saying, I'll put the website in the chat too.
I was going to say, even though it's during the week, I know a lot of the participants last time we had it over the weekend, but they ended up taking the whole next week off. Some of them who had the availability to do that, and just kind of making it a really big self-care week for themselves and exploring other areas in California. So since it ends on a Friday, I mean, it might be cool to stay through a weekend if you have that possibility for you, and check out other areas, or just really continue to take care of yourself during that time. So that's what's nice about having it during the week, I guess, too.
And if you have limited availability, you should be able to travel on that Tuesday. We don't start until 5 p.m. on Tuesday. So you have got that whole day to kind of get there. And then on the day that we leave on Friday, we wrap up by 10 a.m., 10:30 a.m. so that you also have time to, travel that day too. Yeah. Any other questions? We are happy to answer anything.
Any other fears? Does anyone have any fears? Like, oh my gosh, if I come, will I be alone in my grief? Will there be anyone that has the same experience that I have? Anyone feeling any of that?
I have maybe another question, Angela. I know that you kind of mentioned the minimum as far as when somebody embarks on a grief journey, like the 6-month period and beyond. Would you, I mean, I'm just curious, is there, I guess, like a right or wrong time for it? Just, I know that the 6 months might be better, but just
That's
curious.
a really good question. That's a really good question. So often when we just lose in like either sudden instant death or when we lose a loved one, many of you might be familiar with some of the stages. Like you can be in different stages of grief. Like a lot of times when we just lose someone, there's so much shock, and many of you have experienced that where you're just kind of in that state of shock. You forget your keys, you're walking around, you don't know, it's like your head is so detached from your body. And we always think, I always believe, and I know Claire, I think you can speak to this too, is that having a little bit of time under your belt, like maybe that 6 months to a year, can just allow you to kind of go through all the anniversaries, go through all of those things that you're going through with grief. And it allows you to not be as, I guess the word would be kind of triggered or heightened or in such a state of shock. And then you can absorb. So what happens oftentimes is when people are traumatized with grief, the executive functioning shuts down and it's harder for the brain to take in new information. So usually having a little bit of time can sometimes allow us to have gone through some of those things so that we're a little bit more open to being able to do some deeper healing. Like you and I work with someone, and when they just lost someone, it really is triage. It's like, just, okay, here's your grief, we're going to sit with it. And there's not a lot of like deep processing and therapy we can do when people are right in acute grief, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
We just had a special guest join. I'm going to introduce Jen. She was actually a participant at our last retreat, and I'd love for you to just tell everybody a little bit about your experience. Jen, welcome. Thank you for coming.
Hi, everybody. It's funny, I was late because I was just on a reunion Zoom with the original kind of crew from our retreat last time. So I'm like fresh, I'm so happy right now. I lost my mom about 7 months ago. So the grief retreat was about 5 months after I lost her. Maybe six. Honestly, it all blurs together, but I was fresh in my grief. And like a lot of you, I'm sure, I saw something on Instagram. It looked really exciting. Like it would be the answer to all of my problems. So I signed up. And then I got really nervous, like buyer's remorse, like, this means I have to show up. This means I have to pack. Like, I don't want to, I wonder if I can like just go backwards on this. And a couple people, let me start here. From the moment I signed up, I felt like someone was taking care of me. That's part one. And then on day one, Barry, Claire, Kelsey, they said, let us be here to hold things for you. Like, put all the heavy crap down and let's just go through this weekend together. And something about someone else taking care of you, your shoulders just go down. So before the retreat even started, there was a list of, when do you fly in? What airport are you flying into? Do you guys want to carpool? So a couple people and I carpooled. There was three of us. We got an Uber, and the whole way there, we were just talking about death and grief and who we lost. And it just felt great to be with people that get it. I wasn't explaining, oh my gosh, my mom just passed away, and having someone, at the grocery store or at Starbucks be like, okay, what do you need to order? Like that flat look of, I don't know what to do with this information. Like, here, you take it, this ugly girl, like, here, take it. So walking in from the start, from even before the start, you just felt held, and you felt like someone was taking care of you. All the meals taken care of, all the Kleenex boxes, they were everywhere. We didn't have yoga mats. We figured it out. We used towels. Like, we were sitting inside, we were sitting outside. It was magical. I say this now because I've been through it. It will also be the hardest fucking thing you've ever done in your entire life. And I don't want to sugarcoat that. You will cry harder than you have ever cried before. you also will laugh harder than you've ever laughed before. We were just talking on the call about how we got yelled at. There were massages going on, and Lindsay had to come down and be like, guys, can you please stop laughing so hard? There's people trying to relax upstairs. And we were just like crying, laughing just about our people. I would say if I were in your shoes, I would want to know this. Someone's taking care of you at all times. 2, on day 1, it is scary. So just press that button and just say yes and like get it over with. And then get on that plane or get in the car and get there. Just make it in steps. And then when you see all these people, it's like, hi, I'm Jen from Chicago. Like, I don't know where to sit. I don't know who my friends are. I don't know where to go. You're going to be in a circle that first day and everyone's going to talk about their person. And you won't know anyone's name, but you'll know he lost his mom 5 months ago, and she lost her son a year ago, and he lost his daughter. Like, you'll know their stories, and that's almost more personal. So day 1, really scary. Day 2, you've got your people. You're like much more relaxed, and you're doing yoga, and you're doing writing, and you're doing just all the good stuff. And it's easy to be like, I don't know about yoga. I don't know about writing. I don't know. Trust that these are the things that will get you to open up, and your guts will be out there on the table. And you're going to look at them and be like, I'm not a surgeon. How do I put these back together? And day 3, you will put them back together. And you will have however many people there are at your retreat. I had 28. You will have 28 friends and people that get it. And that will text you on your mom's birthday. That will email you on that special holiday to be like, I'm thinking of you. And sometimes that's enough.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any questions?
You're amazing, Jen.
Beautifully said.
This group is pretty quiet. They're doing like a vibe check for sure. But
And
We-
Jen also made it, gave it the sexy moniker Sad Camp.
Because it felt like camp, but it was sad. Sad camp.
But it was also beautiful. That last night was so beautiful and meaningful. You know, we went through this really hard week and of like hearing the really hard stuff and sitting in the really hard stuff. And on the last night together, we asked everyone to come and to bring photos of their person and to really share about who they were and their lives. I remember so many amazing stories from that night of all of these people that we all miss and love. And it was really beautiful. So we're happy to answer any questions over email. When you sign up, Lindsay's going to email everybody a coupon for $100 off everyone who joined this Zoom. And then also you'll set up a Zoom session with me, just one-on-one, just us to talk about, tell me about your loss and your experience, because I really, again, I made like a whole spreadsheet and I was really looking at all the different losses and how I wanted to design it. And there may be a totally different design this time based on, just different groups of people or losses or ages or time frames. And that's important. We really, again, we all do this work because we really love it. And we want it to be helpful and healing for all of you.
And I just wanted you to know at the moment, there's only 4 private rooms left. Some people may fall off our current list and some open up. That does happen. So if you would like a private room, I can put you on the wait list for sure. Jen, were you in a shared room or in a private room?
I was in a shared room. I was thinking I was going to be in a tiny little rink-a-dink room with like 7 other people, and the rooms are gigantic and there's like 9 beds in a room. And I had one roommate. So she had her side, I had my side. We had a balcony. Like it was a very cool experience. Don't be weirded out by that.
Yeah, we try to really thoughtfully place everybody. And please when you're registering, or if you want to email me ahead of time and just let me know of any specific needs, very happy to work with you on any of that. So when you email support@clairebidwellsmith.com, I'm the person you get. So very happy to chat with you about any specific needs that you might have.
Thank you all so much. We really hope to see you there. Let us know if there's anything else we can answer. Feel free to just email. And we really hope that, you know, if this feels like the right fit, that, you know, you just pull the trigger and like, you know, just because it can feel scary, but I really think that you will feel glad that you did. Thank you, everybody. Okay. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye, guys.